Hi there. So this morning I'm going to start work on this portrait of this lady. This is my original photograph that I got from Pixabay. It's a royalty-free image, so I am free to do what I like with it. I always give a little donation though. So that's my original image in colour. Now, what we've been studying in portraiture is basically simplifying blocks of tonal values on the face. Because to try and sort of paint this face, we have to decide what are the light areas, what are the mid areas, and what are the very dark areas at the very least, okay, to help us in the painting process. As I mentioned before, if you find it hard to just squint and try and see those tones, you can use technology to help you. And what I do is I generally put the image into Adobe Photoshop, I strip out the colour, I make it a grayscale image, and then I start posterizing things. I use the filter, in the filters section, I select posterize. And when you posterize the image, this is what you'll get. You can go from extreme, from two tones, that's just black and white. I'll zoom in a bit. Two tones, then this one has 1, 2, 3, 4 tones, so that's a bit more complex. And this one has about, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably about 6 tones in that one. And as you can see, the face becomes more and more soft and more refined with every extra tone you add in there. But as artists, you know, we have to sort of give a believable face with fewer tones, because it would be impossible to use the huge number that actually occur on the human face unless you want to paint in hard realism, and then of course you would paint everything as it is. But in general, painters tend to simplify things down. So to get your brain and your eye working in this simplification habit, this is what we're going to do today. We're actually going to do this two-tone one. In Japanese art, they call it Notan, N-O-T-A-N. Notan is a way of simplifying any subject into light and dark, black and white. Okay, so we'll do that today. But I'm going to put a slight spin on Notan. With Notan, normally they use just black colour and then the white of the paper. But because of the skin tone is dark and has a brownish hue, I'm going to start off on brown paper. So what I've done is I've used cold pressed watercolour paper, and I've painted it in a brown wash yesterday, and that's now dried overnight. I used 3 colours. I used a mix of alizarin crimson, Winsor blue, the green shade, and burnt umber. These are all Winsor & Newton colours. So what I did is I used my little spray bottle to just spray the paper a little bit first, and then I mixed a very big puddle of this brown, and I loaded it all on, and I tipped the paper back and forth, rocked it back and forth to get a very sort of flat brown wash. Okay, so that's totally dry now. So what I normally do in the pursuit of just studying the face and everything, I trace things down because it saves a lot of time for my classes. And what I've been using before is the black trace down made with, you know, graphite. Okay, but if we use that sort of grey line on the brown, it might not show up very well. Alright, so I just want to show you another option you have is you can use this brand make, which is called Saral, and it's transfer paper. It comes in lots of colours. Right, you go blue, green, red, and I've picked the white one. Alright, so what I'm going to do, here it is. Here it is. I'm just going to check which side it is like that one. Yeah, so it's that side face down, and I'm going to pop my image on there. Now, I made this is tracing paper, and I put it on my printout, and I traced it down. It looks rather abstract, okay? And this is what we want. We want to get our eye used to looking at abstract shapes on the face, rather than looking at individual features such as noses, eyes, ears, lips. we just want to practice flipping our right brain on instead of the left brain in this sort of start of portraiture. So I traced that down. You can draw it if you want. I haven't always got time to spend hours doing that. Okay, so that's going on there, and I'm now just going to take a fine biro, and I'm going to trace it all down. So I don't want to move this, otherwise I'll lose my place. So I'm going to do that now and pause the camera because it takes ages to upload every single minute on this. So I'll see you back when I've traced it down. So now I've got that image traced down using that white Saral paper. Okay, so the next thing to do is mix up a really big puddle of brown using those same three colours, alizarin crimson, Windsor blue and burnt umber, and make it a bit darker than the brown that I've got on there. And then I'm just going to paint everything that I can see as black in this. I'm going to paint it that darker brown on here. Right? So let's mix up the big puddle of that. So I'm going to use just a bigger brush. I'm going to add a lot of water. In fact, just use my spray bottle. If you've got one of those pipettes, you know, you can just squeeze a big puddle of water on the middle of your palette, whatever is the easiest way for you. I should get one of those pipettes. They're quite good, because it takes a while. So I'm just making a really big puddle of water. I don't want to run out halfway through. That would be a bit of a pain. Okay, so let's get some. So we'll start off with alizarin crimson. Make sure you don't have any blobs of paint like that one there. Get rid of any blobs of paint because they streak and they look a bit, they take your eye, you know, so keep those blobs, make them dilute and dissolve. Then let's have the Windsor blue. Got a bit of a Windsor blue blob there now, I think, or a red one. Right, get rid of that. Might be a bit of tissue paper actually. Right, now for some burnt umber. That's looking, compared to my brown paper, this is looking a bit too red. So I'm going to add more burnt umber to correct that. I want to get it more in the brown zone. Okay. Yeah, still a bit red. The best way to test it, of course, is to give it a little stroke on a piece of scrap paper, which I'll do in a second. Just want to make sure I got enough of this. Perhaps a bit more Windsor blue as well. Bit more Windsor blue. Yeah. Just neutralising it a little bit more, just taking the heat out of that red. I do want red in there though, because you know red is a good flesh tone colour, obviously. But let's just try a bit of this out on a bit of, yeah, that's not bad. Could be a bit darker though, because I don't think that's going to be strong enough. So I'm going to add more burnt umber, more pigment. Really make that richer, more pigmented, but as you can see it's still very runny, which I want. I want it to be runny so that I can get in all the awkward little wiggly bits and things. And a bit more blue there. Right, let's try and start adding that now. I'm going to switch to a small brush. It's a size 3. Moisten that. And I'm going to start off with all the tricky small bits first. and as much as I can I'm going to paint right, right over the chalky white line left by the Surreal, because I don't want that to be too much in evidence. So it is a little bit strange, painting these odd isolated shapes, but it's really good training. It's good food for your artist's brain to get used to seeing like this instead of seeing in the normal left-hand brain way, which likes to know what everything is called. Left brain only likes things when it knows the name of them, like, oh, that's a nose, that's a mouth, that's an eye. But that doesn't help us break things down into simple tonal shapes, which is what the right brain needs. So this is why we're doing this, is to get your artist's brain thinking in a slightly different mindset. As I'm painting this, I'm not thinking, oh, right, I'm just painting part of the nose. No, I'm just purposely looking at the shape and just merrily filling the shapes in. I'm just being as faithful as I can to the shape and position, and that's all. The best way to paint these, when these tonal studies, when they're big like this, is to try and, paint a mass. Don't start painting here and then go over there, sort of thing. Try and keep it all as a sort of mass moving forward. This brown patch, this brown shape will just eke out and get bigger and bigger and creep across the face as one mass. That's what I'm trying to do, sort of to keep the paint from breaking up too much. So I've just started at this position and I'm just creeping forward, trying to kill the white of those chalky lines as much as I can. I've left that there, and when I start painting back up there I'll probably have a little bit of a hard edge, but you can't avoid that because it's such a big area to try and do all at once. Okay. So yes, keeping on just progressing as best you can. you know, when you're doing this yourself, you could turn the board for ease of painting. I'm keeping it flat and square on the camera so that you can see. If I was doing this and not filming it, I'd be turning the board around to help my hand get a better angle on things, and you can do the same if that's easier for you. Right, I'm going back to a bigger brush now because I can paint a lot now. I'm out of the twiddly little bits for a minute. I could make headway and just paint all of this section. I'm not using a word, I'm just going to say section. I don't want to name anything right now, I just want to block in this mass of dark brown, that's all. And see what emerges with the white that remains, with the sort of the paler brown that remains, sorry, the paler brown. So big brush if you want to get some big areas painted in. Keep them as, you know, filled as possible so that there's not too many fragmented scraps, because it makes the wash you're putting on a bit sort of disjointed. I think I can get all of this piece here in one, more or less. These flat brushes are good because, you know, even the corners of them make quite accurate smaller brush areas for painting tricky pieces like that. So I think now it's back to the small brush. Let's do these little twiddly bits here. And again, they haven't got to be, you know, exact. Try and keep them as best you can. And see where that's dried and I'm going back on, it's giving me a different tone. Never mind. What I could do to remedy that is just paint, you know, go all over it again to re-moisten it, you see. Then that makes it more the same tone as the rest of the face there. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on and just pause the camera for a second. Just carry on filling in all the gaps now. Okay, so now I've filled in all the gaps, all the browns have been done. If I zoom out, you know, you do need to stand a little way away to see the effect. Okay, and I'll go there. So we've got a two-tone face in browns, and that's basically given us a light tone and a dark tone, and that's all we've done. And it just shows you how little you need to create a portrait in any medium. So I hope you've enjoyed having a go of that. And you can do it in any colour. You could do it in all blues or all pinks or whatever, all greens. But the main purpose of doing this is to think about shapes rather than features. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.